Welcome. On behalf of all of my colleagues, I want to thank you for coming to this meeting. This is now over 30 years we've been holding the European Users Conference, and it's great to see you. Some of my best friends are here in the audience, some of you, and some of you I've never met. But for all of you, thank you for coming here and taking the time to be here. The purpose of this meeting is, as Alfonso said, simply to be together and learn from each other, share what we know, breathe, what did he say, breathe, and look, something like that, and share. Perhaps I would add the word share, meaning listen to each other, learn from each other, share what you know. And it's also been our tradition at this conference to start it out in the beginning by you meeting one new person. So could I ask that you do that for me now? Turn around and meet somebody new, introduce yourself, breathe, listen, share. Do that for me. One of the reasons why I suggest that you do that is because I think that's the main purpose of us being together. There will be many presentations, but if you are like me, you will learn from each other much more than lectures through informal communications. And friendship is most important here. You are part of a larger network of several hundred thousand, actually several million GIS users that are around the world. You reflect different disciplines, different organizational types, different backgrounds, different professions. This is what's fun about GIS, is that it brings so much of us, so many of our ideas, so much of our knowledge together. As Carlos talked about, we are at a time in history, information is coming at us at an exponential rate. Not just data, not just information, but knowledge. And one of the interesting parts about you, particularly you as a body of people, is that your job often involves the integration of this knowledge. Integration and understanding. That's the theme of this year's conference. Your applications are, as Alfonso mentioned, from many different fields and many different backgrounds. Almost every problem that we are facing as a society globally, you are working on through maps. These include natural resources, managing them, examining them, monitoring environmental change, something that Carlos spoke to. We are increasingly changing at a rapid rate and developing new sources of energy, wind, solar, geothermal. We need to do this increasingly rapidly. We need to plan for the future, as Carlos also said, land use planning, conservation planning, business planning, and GIS, your work is a framework for conducting that effort. Managing land information, the foundation of the civil society, land records, cadastral systems are foundational for everything else that we do. Designing and managing transportation, not simply cars, ships, aircraft, high rapid transit, and on and on. Managing utilities and telecommunications, the infrastructure part, and managing increasingly buildings. GIS as a trend is being moved into buildings using the same spatial analysis and data management tools that we applied to larger parts of geography, in buildings, in 3D spaces, in rooms, and we are learning how to extract efficiency and more efficient building practice as a result. Providing defense and homeland security, keeping our nations and our populations secure, and improving business management, finding the right locations, doing the right market research. All of these provide foundational information for better decision making. Understanding demographics and human health in national censuses, statistics information systems, and in the spread of disease and the location of hospitals, Your work is making a huge difference. You are often working in law enforcement and public safety, particularly within local government, and planning for and responding to natural disasters like the earthquakes here in Japan, situation awareness, flooding, fire, all of those wretched disaster activities that occur. I'll call your attention to the map in the lower right. This is the radiation exposure map that's quite famous now in Japan. Some of you perhaps read that after the nuclear problem that occurred there, they evacuated areas within 4 kilometers of the nuclear Fukushima plant. That's the red circle. But in fact, the radiation exposure went beyond. GIS researchers discovered this by using modeling tools, and the Japanese government subsequently evacuated areas beyond the 4-kilometer area. These maps all have a story like this. They make a difference. They sometimes save people's lives. They sometimes drive efficiency. They sometimes communicate with the public efficiently. All of them are interesting. There's a new trend that's involving crowdsourcing and engaging citizens to collect geographic information. Information is now being called citizen science, which is collected geographically, put back into servers across the web. 311 reporting systems are allowing citizens to tell their government where there's a crisis or where there's a problem. And during emergencies, organizations like Ushahidi are organizing citizen participation to tell what's going on with tweets, with Facebook, with social media, with maps on the web. All of these activities, when you look at them together, are resulting in the development increasingly of spatial data infrastructure, a kind of framework or fabric that Carlos talked about, a new infrastructure, the kind of killer app on top of this cloud internet information system that's emerging right now. In India, they're building a national system. In China, they already have. Here in the EU, through the INSPIRE efforts, there's activities going on in the areas of standards and building databases. But some countries are really leading the way. Some cities are leading the way, like Geneva here in Switzerland, and Abu Dhabi in the Middle East. And in Indonesia, a complete national system being purchased by the leaders of the countries in India and in Indonesia. This is powerful stuff because it's not a bottom-up idea. It's not simply the departments automating GIS. These implementations are top-down. They're saying, leaders are saying, I need geographic knowledge to manage my country or to manage my city. And that means that the leadership needs to be knowledgeable, and that means that the technology has to be iPhone-like, simple, easy to use, accessible, and everywhere. Clearly, your work, your applications are helping us understand our world at the micro level and in some cases at the macro level. You are abstracting our world through databases and imagery and data models and models which describe process of change, and of course apps and maps that display all of this information synoptically so that we can be not only a more informed society, but we can be ready to design the next generation of geography. Geodesign is a concept whose time has come. We need to implement on top of this infrastructure that's emerging, design logic so that we create the future using the scientific and knowledge information that we are measuring and organizing in your systems. Our world at a contextual level is changing very rapidly. It's creating some challenges for our organizations. Climate change isn't just a phenomenon that's happening. It's affecting cities and coastal areas. It's affecting agriculture. It's affecting your organizations, utilities, everyone. Population growth is affecting everyone. The urbanization of our society is affecting everyone. Security, poverty, and these are phenomenologies which are geographic in nature, which have effect on your organization. It isn't just an abstract idea. We need to have collective intelligence about what's going on as a global society, and we need collective understanding of these changes as they relate to our organization and all organizations. GIS actually is a very practical system for problem solving and creating this understanding. Individuals use it, groups use it, organizations use it. They use it to integrate information, to synthesize information, and again, as Carlos talked about, as we exponentially increase the volume of data and knowledge that we have, we need a synthesizing environment to bring it together. The visual nature of GIS means that it facilitates communication. We can stand around or sit around maps or visualizations and quickly exchange ideas. We can geo-design together in a collaborative environment. And this technology that you support in your organizations helps break down the barriers between the different divisions in organizations, sectors, disciplines, cultures, the engineering culture versus the planning culture versus the law enforcement culture. These are all little islands in and of themselves, and they all use GIS. The real power of GIS is when we bring these together. We look at relationships between, for example, diseases and the environment, or the relationship between security issues and demographics, and on and on and on. My assertion, and this is a strong assertion, is that GIS will become a powerful and essential new language for this next big jump that we take in technology. It's a language for understanding our world. GIS is changing very rapidly. I can speak perhaps more authoritatively about this than all of you in the room. 45 years I've been playing with this through time. I've watched it go through different stages. At this point in my career, I'm just overwhelmed at the possibilities of what will come next. What are the changing forces that are playing together and co-evolving GIS today? They start with measurement. We are beginning to measure virtually everything that changes and moves. With GPS, remote sensing, LiDAR, tracking, sensor networks, we're measuring everything. The data volumes are increasing. The whole world of big data tables is required to deal with an exponential growth in the amount of measurements that are coming in. Crowdsourcing is adding to it in exponential ways. At the same time, as again Carlos mentioned, our computing environment is co-evolving with cloud solutions, cloud connected to mobile devices, cloud connected to mobile devices with high-speed connectivity. Not simply bandwidth, but also we're seeing social networking information connecting us in ways that we haven't before. And this is affecting science. It's affecting how we understand. The relationships, the patterns are becoming more quantitative. We're entering an age of big science, big analytics, so that computational geography becomes a platform for all sorts of computational science. And GIS itself, our little world, it's also exponentially growing and co-evolving, bouncing around with all of these other forces of technology. Data management, we're learning how to deal with the big data problem. We're dealing with time, the space-time issues. we're dealing with three-dimensional and multi-dimensional data sets. And it's becoming mobile, and it's becoming open, and it's becoming usable in ways that we haven't really been able to do in the past. So the iPhone culture is able to actually access and use this massive supercomputing cloud environment that's emerging. Out of these co-evolving forces is a new pattern that will affect each of you personally. It's a pattern of a cloud, making geographic information accessible through the internet to everyone. It'll connect all of us, all of our servers, all of our desktops. There'll be new devices like my iPhone or my iPad or my Android devices that are lightweight, easy to deploy, free, that millions of apps get built on top of, geographic apps of many different flavors. And they'll be available anytime, anywhere, on any device. They will integrate all sorts of information, as I mentioned before, the whole world of social media and online measurement. And this pattern will extend GIS. GIS professionals like you will share your information in this web of geospatial information with spatially enabled Facebook registers or spatially enabled tweets or satellite information or all kinds of locational data which is being thrown into this GeoWeb or GeoCloud environment. This will be an open environment. It won't be owned by one vendor like Microsoft or Google. It'll be open and interoperable. And Esri users will participate in that along with other technologies, other geospatial technologies, but also all other technologies. This will offer the opportunity to extend the reach of your good work to others, knowledge workers, managers, people who don't really want to learn all of the details about geospatial information. They just want to use it, just like iTunes allows me to listen to music. I don't have to know much about it. So I'm really excited about this because it represents basically a new modality. I've shared this with some of my friends, maybe some of you before. Did you know about when movies first got started? Do you know how they did it? Did anybody tell you that story? The way they did it is they'd have a stage like this, and they had a movie camera, and they filmed the actual movie on the stage, you know, in the camera. And at the end, of course, they had the effect of disseminating the stage play throughout society. It was a huge invention. Everybody was very excited. And then they took the movie camera outdoors, and they started to realize, wow, the movie camera is more than just filming stage plays. And as Carlos mentioned, the same sort of thing occurred with digital books. The little Nook digital book allows me to page through digital books. But now, the whole little portable devices allow me to look at wikis and alive books and books that are being generated dynamically. A whole new modality is occurring. When people first started to automate maps, they used CAD systems, and they would automate the drawing, and they could zoom in and zoom out. They could email or they could send the digital maps to each other. It's a big invention. But it wasn't until GIS came along where they could actually do analytics with the maps around a database. And the graphics were just a byproduct of the basic data. It was a new modality in computer mapping and cartography. And this, ladies and gentlemen, is a kind of new modality. Everything that we've done with GIS to date will be integrated into it, but it's a huge jump. We've only begun to realize what this will mean.